In 2019, I decided to sit down and write my goals for the year ahead, one of which was to finally start playing a live action role-playing game. Of course, 2020 then rolls around and that is not possible. But 3 years later, in 2023, I have finally got round to playing my first ever live action role-playing game. Just to preface, this isn't a review or an in-depth look into Empire and its systems. This is just, if you are like me and wanted to try LARPing for the first time and you maybe like the look of Empire, then this is my first-hand experience as a first-time role player and first-time Empire player. So grab a cozy hot beverage and let's go through the weekend. As I mentioned, Empire is one of the biggest live-action role-playing or live role-playing events here in the UK. The last event, which was the event 4 of 2023 back in September, I think it was around 4,000 people, thereabouts, in attendance. It is huge and it has been running since 2013, with the event coordinators I think initially coming together around the early 2000s. Also, it is high fantasy, so think of your traditional Dungeons and Dragons, high fantasy role-playing game, that kind of setting. The event itself lasts from Friday to Sunday, although you can have an optional night on the Thursday evening as well. The game incorporates both role-playing scenarios and also has a couple of big battles too, which is like a massive draw, I think, to Empire in particular. And the role-playing is driven by both normal players like me, and also there are NPCs that are there too, which are lovely, wonderfully crafted by event organisers and writers who actually drive specific plot lines through the entire weekend and beyond. So the first thing I did, aside from peer pressure my friends into trying to join Empire with me, was to create my character. As you can see today, I am wearing her, and I'll talk a little bit more about her as we go on. Empire itself has a website, it has a wiki, and it also has a character creation account screen, so we'll talk about the wiki a little bit later. But the account screen, and when you sign up, you can obviously buy tickets to the events. There are 4 events in the year, by the way: spring, summer, autumn and winter. Winter, spring, summer and autumn. And September was the last one, as I mentioned, until April of next year. So April of 2024 is the next one, because in the middle of that it's just too cold to camp. Nobody wants to camp in these months. So they've actually implemented a character creation process, like an actual character creation screen. If you are familiar with maybe creating characters for RPGs, whether that be tabletop or video games, you'll find this quite familiar. I found it quite easy to navigate. There are point buying systems as well, so you can choose what to specialize your character in. So for me, I ended up choosing one of the 10 nations, I think it's 10 nations you can choose from. I chose the nation of Wintermark, which are essentially Vikings, although I don't think they like it when you call them Vikings. But just for the ease of describing the nation, fantasy Viking nation. So through that system, I chose to be a Calavesa mystic in Wintermark, which is essentially a swamp witch. My character rather, has sort of divining properties about them and has a whole interesting background about how they use mystic powers to see things and do things, and it's very fun and interesting, especially for the kind of witchy character I wanted to make. I used a lot of the wiki at this point. Their wiki is vast. It's chock-a-block with so many things. I tried to read as much as possible, however it is so vast I didn't manage to read all of it, although I had many friends who have played Empire before tell me don't worry about reading the wiki because you'll kind of learn more as you play the game and get invested in things. You don't need to read all of it before you join. You just kind of read enough to know what you're interested in playing and then go for it, make your character. So this is Celine. Celine, as I mentioned, is a Calavesa mystic from Wintermark. She specialises in night lore, which is their way of classing magic. So lore is magic, and you can have different categories of magic ranging from night, day, spring, autumn, winter, summer, possibly another one I can't remember off the top of my list. And each of those lores possess different kinds of spells. So for instance, Celine being in the Night Law category, she can learn spells that revolve around learning things, keeping secrets, unveiling secrets, also a lot of generic spells that I think a lot of other laws kind of possess, so being able to protect people or craft things. I don't know, I can't remember the details off the top of my head, but things like that. So because I didn't know what to expect going into Empire, I didn't want to overload Celine with a lot of objectives and priorities and a whole character backstory, because I didn't know if I'd actually enjoy playing as her. For new time players, they're actually very lenient and supportive of new time players kind of trialing out their first character, and if it doesn't really fit for them, there's a lot of opportunities to respec them or just change your character altogether. You can also retire a character, which is essentially not deleting it, but sending them away, never playing them again, and just starting a new character if that one just didn't work out for you. So I didn't want to invest too much backstory into her. Not only that, but I also wanted to learn as I played, as my friends recommended. So I wanted to spend as much time in my first event as absorbing the plot lines that were going on, the cultures around Anvil, which is the big location in the Empire that we all visit. These events are held in a place called Anvil, which is like an epicenter of the Empire, where all the nations come to meet, talk politics, and kill shit. So with that, it was time for me to do arguably the most fun part of creating any character, decide what she was wearing.
Okay, so ignore the messy room. I'm going to do a little try on of the 2 costume variations that I think I'm going to bring to Empire. So I've done a trial run on my hair. I've not done a trial run on my makeup yet. I'm going to do that later this week. But I'm going to show you my 2 costume versions. I don't know why it took so long to say. Okay, so here is outfit 1. A lot of these accessory elements are going to be the same between the 2 outfits. It's just this one has a corseted top. We've got a corset on the top and long sleeves, and then a second skirt here with an underskirt. I'm unsure about the head piece. I feel like it kind of ties things together with the gold and the black. But yeah, this is number 1. Okay, outfit 2 is the, for lack of a better, name, the summer variant. Instead of the long sleeve top, it's now a beach dress. Again, thanks to ASOS for equipping my LARP gear this time. Not sponsored. So it's kind of more open back kind of situation, shorter sleeves, V-neck, open on the sides, but still has the same underskirt, belt, accessories, pauldrons, all the rest of it. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with these 2 variations. As for shoes, I'm definitely going to take my wellies. They're dark green. I have a very long skirt, so I think it's going to be mostly hidden. My concern is if I take some of my more aesthetically fitting leather looking boots, they're just not going to last like 4 days, and I don't really want to be packing multiple pairs of shoes. I want to pack as light as possible. Let's go.
So now that I had decided a couple of options for what Celine's costume could be, also a really good piece of advice that, again, multiple people over the weekend and friends that I already knew who played Empire had told me, and I think this transfers to any sort of live role-playing situation. You don't expect your character to come in as fully formed and fully realised and fully levelled up. Treat it as you're coming in as level 1, and your kit, so the clothes you wear, the costumes, the accessories, known as your kit, that can evolve with you as your story and as your character progresses through Empire and through the different events, which I really like. So I'm excited to see where version 1 Celine is now, and this time next year when I've done the other 4 events, where she is then. Is she dead? Is she a coven leader? Is she something else entirely? And just let her kit be a reflection of her storyline. Of course, on top of all of the costume in the kit, there were other things to prep. It is a camping event, so you are expected to, well, no, actually, I take that back. You're not expected to camp, but it is the done thing because you're on a huge campsite, there's plenty of room to pitch tents, and this is a good point to actually talk about in-character camping and out-of-character camping. In-character and out of character, also known as IC and OC, are referred to, as you can guess. In character is I am Celine now, I'm role playing as Celine, I'm in her character, and out of character is I'm Rianne and I'm in a costume and I'm talking to you as I am doing now. So because the event obviously has a lot of camping equipment, and some of which will likely not fit the aesthetics of high fantasy, you have in-character camping, which is actually on the venue itself, almost as if you can imagine it as if you walk through the gates and there's a portal to Anvil. Everything past that point is Anvil, so you can't kind of come in with your decathlon tent and set up in that world because it would not look realistic or authentic. So you can camp in the in-character section, but it has to be the sort of traditional cloth tents or anything that kind of looks more authentic to that high fantasy experience. And if you don't have that, you can camp in the out-of-character camping place, which is what I did, because there's no way that I was investing that much time and money into my first event just in case I didn't like it. So I ended up getting a load of camping equipment because I have no camping equipment. I have never camped by myself before, and packed it all up.
So this is the packing pile. It's a little large, which is why I'm a little bit worried. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm not going to pack up the tent in the suitcase because it's just going to be too heavy. So it's got two straps here and I'm going to wear it like a backpack. But everything else is going to be packed into the suitcase. I've got the bed sheets, I've got the bed, I've got my pillow, I've got the pump, which is USB rechargeable, I've got my USB power pack, I've got the lanterns, which now have batteries in, and I've also got extra batteries for us too, just in case. The mead with the cups. Little pile here is just all clothes, everything like this is all the clothes I'm taking. And then over here we've got the accessories pile. I've got a little bag of like medicinal stuff and wet wipes too, and sun cream and a sewing kit. This has got like plasters, painkillers, and hay fever tablets just in case. This is just my toiletry bag. I packed one towel as well, again just to keep it super, or as light as I can do. But apart from a couple of other essentials which I'll have to pack up in the morning before I leave, like toothbrush, hairbrush, blah 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 blah, this is everything.
So of course a consideration with packing all my own stuff for camping is that I don't have a car, so I had to rely on public transportation to get there. So that was a huge part of deciding how I'm going to pack, what I'm going to pack, although deciding to bring a 6-man tent maybe wasn't the best decision on my part, but I thought that we may have more people come with us. So in the end it was just myself and my wonderful friend Liz, who you might see a bit of later, and then we travelled. I travelled. It did not go to plan. So I decided to do the extra Thursday night, so I had time to set up. I also just wanted to make the most out of my time at the event, soak up as much of the atmosphere as possible, meet a load of people, see my friends who were already at the event. So I paid an extra £5 on the Thursday night to set up camp. There was no role playing on Thursday at all. It is literally just for people to get there early, set up camp, and so you don't have to worry about rushing on the Friday to set up camp and get ready to get in character for the Friday evening, which we'll get onto soon. So the transportation route I was taking as a public transport person was, I'm based in London, so it was a tube to a train station, a train to another train station, and then very kind of the Empire events team, they actually have a free coach that you can get from Dadford, I believe is the train station you had to go to. It is completely free. They do recommend putting your name down for using the coach on the way home, because there's a lot of people who use public transport. I think it's so awesome of them that they had a free coach system for people to use. Otherwise, there is no way you can get to the campsite unless you can get there by car or coach or taxi. I would have had to take a taxi. So with my route planned, my stuff packed, I was prepared to make the journey. And the journey happened. Hello, it's LARP day. Ooh. I'm mainly concerned about navigating the underground with the suitcase and the tent strapped to my back. But I've done stuff. I've carried heavier suitcases around the underground before, so I should be fine. I should be fine. That's the worst part. Once I'm at the train station, then it's kind of smooth sailing. So we have a bit of a problem. So the first leg of the journey wasn't bad at all. The suitcase breaking was my biggest problem because as I got to the campsite, my suitcase was too heavy for me to actually hold and lift, especially with the tent backpack. So we got to the campsite and it's all gravel and I'm trying to wheel my suitcase with no handle and use like the top grab handle, and my back was shot Thursday evening. It was just bad luck, super bad luck. The coach was great. I think the one criticism I have, if you can criticize a free coach, the only thing I could say is that we weren't sure where it was pulling up. Luckily, I found a load of other Empire people at the train station, and one of them had access to the Discord, and there was actually some sort of message on the Discord that said, hey, the coach is now coming from a slightly different place, we had to walk down the road. Had I not known that, I might have stayed at that train station for a while and maybe had to get a taxi. So just a little bit of a blip, nothing crazy. And now we're at day one, Thursday evening. So after a turbulent day of travel, I put up the 6-man tent by myself. I was very proud of that, so hence me wanting to tell that to everybody. It is a life skill that I will cherish. It has taken me about an hour, if not more, to get this tent up by myself. I'm proud I did it because I've never put up a tent before. But oh my god, I'm just sweating so much. Oh my god. So now I'm set up. I think I'm gonna find where the showers are, shower, and go find something to eat and drink because I am. I first of all did some exploring. You can go straight into Anvil on Thursday night, sort of out of character. Nobody's expecting you to roleplay or anything, like I said. So you got to have a little look of everything that was on offer. And oh my word, is this place huge. I do also want to preface that there is no filming allowed during the event time, so I believe I have like a couple of quick shots of just me walking around on the Thursday evening in Anvil, but just I'm obviously not going to break the rule of filming during the event or filming. I didn't film inside the event Friday, Saturday or Sunday, so if you're coming here looking for a huge film of the entire thing from the inside, I'm sorry, but that's not what this is. I just have a couple of quick snippets from the Thursday night. I mean, it was like you were being transported into a completely different world. The attention to detail through all the different camps, the food vendors, there was a tavern with actual set pieces, the archway to go through into battles, like the gate to go through the battles is all like huge props made out of stone, not real stone, but like looks like stone. The tavern looked like it was made out of, you know, old actual real tavern building. Tents everywhere, fire pits, dirt paths. I know that sounds really boring, like it has a dirt path, but the whole setting and everywhere that was Anvil was just really cool. Right at the end you had a load of food vans, and they kept that sort of out of the way of the main areas of Anvil. The food vans, there was a large selection. They had a lot of alternative options as well, especially if you have dietary requirements or a vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian. There was lots of options to choose from across the weekend, as well as other options in Anvil which were in character. So the out of character food van section obviously used normal money, which is called barbarian money in Anvil, which I thought was a lovely touch. But there are also actually food vendors ran by actual players that had like brewed their own drinks, made their own food, and they actually took in-game currency, so crowns, which is crowns, thrones, and I can't remember the rings, crowns, and thrones. They're the three currencies. They're basically like copper, gold, and copper, silver, and gold, if you want to explain it that way, which was really cool. Speaking of which, in that food section, it was also God. God is a huge tent, which is essentially the hub for the event, where you can go and speak to the volunteers for the event, get your character sorted. If there's any discrepancies or any issues with your character, or something not working, or an event not running, or then you can come to God and get it sorted out. It's all out of character. It's literally like the huge help desk of the event. So I went there on Thursday night to pick up my character pack. So my character pack, here it is. Your player ID on it, which is like your personal ID, obviously my character's name, and then inside it has like the following, and it includes like your character passport, and then any resources that your character has. So this includes currency. Like I said, I had a starting currency of 18 rings because I'm a new player. That's the starting currency, I think, for every new character. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, people who play Empire and have played much longer than me, which is likely considering I've only been once. And then based on your character creation, you choose like a resource. For me, I initially chose a herb garden, realised that did not go with my character at all, and then immediately changed it with God and said, I'm sorry, am I able to change this resource for that instead? And they were very happy to do so. The staff that I encountered were all super friendly, very helpful. The moment that you said, I'm new, they were like, don't worry, let me help you. So I went to God a few times over the weekend, and they were nothing but helpful. And I got my pack and I changed out my resources from herb garden to mana, and inside this you also get obviously like your character, basically your character sheet, but on top of that you also get little cards for resources. I don't think I have any. Oh no, wait, here they are. I put them in a little pouch. I'm smart like that, if I remember where to put things. So basically you get cards like this, which are representations of your resources. So for me, I had a load of mana crystals because I'm a magic user. So you have little, I don't know if you can see, I don't know if this is, I have no view of my viewfinder whatsoever. There you go, little card, little baby card. When you use these, any of these, you rip them, just to make sure that there's no cheating, no foul play. And this is the same with like any of the resources that come, and they actually say rip on use. Also, some of these do say phys rep required, and what that means is a physical representation. So instead of you running around with a card like have my mana, which feels very gamified, instead you have a physical representation. So I, on site, managed to buy these like little see-through trinkets, which I got enough of to represent my mana use. So that way, if I were to be casting something in a ritual, instead of kind of pulling out this and it feeling a little bit out of character and a little bit gamey, I could pull out these sort of crystally gems and do something with them. And I've got the rings. I do have a few rings and one ring. I've got a few rings to share. This is such a nice touch. The fact that they have these in, like, they've actually printed the metal. I don't know if you can see these. I apologize if you can't. They actually have like, you can hear the ASMR. They actually have metal coins, currency, real currency to use, and they give that to you in your pouches at the beginning. I won't lie, I don't know if I was meant to have taken those. I promise I'm not stealing. If anybody from Empire is like, naughty, I promise I'm bringing them back. And I was unsure what to do with them, and I came home and I went, oh, I've still got these. I'm not sure if I'm meant to have these. I'm not a thief, I promise. And then my friend Liz arrived, and we settled in for the evening. We went to one of the restaurants and got some food and some hot chocolate, and just had a cozy night before the Friday.
Good morning. It is 20 to 10, I think. Last night was freezing, even though it's like already super hot and I'm already starting to sweat. Last night was like freezing, super cold. So, but today is the Friday. Time in isn't until 6 p.m. So we're going to spend the day just kind of having a look around the markets, getting ready, and going to a couple of the planned events for new people. So yeah, I won't be able to film much, but should be a good day.
Okay, so let's talk about the concept of time in. Time in is where you timed into your character. It's basically when the game starts, if you want to refer it to it as a game. The day 2, Friday, started, and that's the first day where we could have time in. Time in started from 6 p.m. on the Friday evening and ended at 2 a.m. on the Saturday morning. So there's a huge amount of time to do loads of things on the Friday evening, and in September there was still a decent amount of daylight to play with, so it didn't feel like you were just roaming around in the dark the entire time, which is nice, which is another reason why I don't think that they run these events from September through to April. I think that's also another reason why they're not run, because you just be in the dark most of the time. That weekend was the heatwave weekend, and when I say it was hot, I mean it was hot. Luckily for me, one of my kit pieces was basically a beach dress. Unfortunately for everyone else, they had to witness the breeze show my arse a fair few times. If you saw me at the event and you saw my arse, I can only apologise, but honestly it was too hot to care at that point, and I think a lot of people can agree with me when I say that. So it was my first time as Celine. I didn't know how to roleplay her. I'd roleplayed before in tabletop RPGs. I did performing arts back at school. I enjoy acting. But this was new. Like, I was Celine. Everyone else around me was their character. This was no longer some campsite in the middle of the UK. This was Anvil in the middle of Empire, and I was actually very, very nervous. I'm not going to probably go into all the details about all of the storylines that Celine got herself into, because I think partly if you're watching this and you want to get involved in Empire, I don't really want to spoil any plot for you if you want to get involved yourself, and also there are certain things that I wouldn't want to share out of character because only Celine knows that, and I think that's a really cool aspect, to kind of feel like you're writing your own character by the things that you do just in these 4 events a year. So if you do go to Empire and you are interested in wanting to get involved in it, I won't spoil any of the plot for you guys, and also I won't tell you what Celine or everything that Celine knows, because in that weekend, let me tell you, she learned a lot. I was watching a meeting right at the beginning of the Friday. Wintermark had this huge town hall, essentially. A few people had messages to share, things that were going on over the weekend, battles that were happening, people who needed herbs for things. There was an election happening, and then somebody came up behind me and I shit my pants. They were like, "Why don't you nominate yourself?" And I was like, I'm 20 minutes in, I've not said a word, I've not even spoken to anyone in character yet, and this person who's clearly very adept at role playing, they were super into their character, they were in their role, they were awesome, but I had no idea what to do or say, and I tried responding, and at one point it just came out garbled, and I just had to stop talking because I just physically went eee. I remember turning to them being like, I don't think, Celine is very much like, I don't think so. Why would you ask me of this? Why would you da-da-da-da-da? And then he said something, and then I kind of went, and then just carried on watching, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, this is too much. So after that, we met up with a few people in Wintermark. Shout out to Sac Magique. They were absolutely lovely. Now, what I will say is, for role-playing, if you're nervous about being in a character, for that amount of time, you don't have to be in that character all the time, okay? Everybody there is quite lenient with role-playing, so as long as you're not walking around sort of just shouting weird things and getting your phone out, and phones are also known as magic mirrors, so if you need to use your phone at any point and you're in the middle of a roleplay conversation, you can say something along the lines of, "Pardon me, I just need to excuse myself and use a magic mirror," and you can go away. And again, it's just cool little details that help not break the immersion, which I really appreciate. There are so many instances on through the weekend, in fact, where I was speaking as Rianne in Anvil to other people, just because they were very understanding and very helpful, and especially when you're just in a very small group and you're not being involved in anything, and it's just maybe the 2 of you walking down the street, or maybe a little group of you sat around a campfire that's not being involved with anybody externally, you can speak normally. They're not super strict about you having to be in character. Nobody's coming around and monitoring, are you in character? You just mentioned you just mentioned Sheffield. That's not an anvil. So we spent a lot of time, both Liz and I spent a lot of time talking to a lovely group of people in Wintermark. And they told us a load of information about the game as well. They were kind of going through the current politics of what was happening, like the big plot lines in the game at the moment, so we could kind of understand why people were doing things, why there was this fight going on. And then something very cool happened because, as I mentioned, I'm a Calavesa mystic, and on a Friday night we took drugs and went on a trip. I must clarify, we did not actually take drugs. We got given a card for a herb called Goose Whisper, and Calavesa mystics and any other mystic from any other nation on the Friday night were invited to come take Goose Whisper, go out into the forests and go through like a vision, a group vision, to try and help see what's ahead for Anvil and the Empire. This was particularly cool because night had fallen, it was dark. We all had like lanterns. The group of us mystics went through the gate into the woods, went through a path, had to dodge a hornet's nest. Luckily, there were really good staff people at this event who will break character immediately to make sure that you are safe above everything else. So we were kind of like in the moment walking through the woods, and then there was a staff member like, go that way, hornet's nest, do not fucking come near this. Went, cool, thanks. Back into character. So essentially, Goose Whisper is this drug, and you take it and you see a vision, but when you rip the thing, so we saw the vision was played out by actors, very cool. There was like loads of mood lighting, so coloured lights everywhere, and these actors came out and performed this vision, so you actually all saw this thing together. So cool. And then inside, when you tear it, they actually had instructions as to what the after effects of taking that drug did to you, and they were all completely random. So for Celine, she spent the rest, like an hour or so, seeing auras around people and like things in the corners of her vision, so I got to roleplay that a little bit, which was quite fun. I also got given my very first quest by a wonderful character in Wintermark. I'm unsure whether to name them or not because I don't want to kind of over-explain things, so I'm not going to mention them. There's a particular character who is very, very cool, very well played by their in real life person, who essentially set me off on what was Celine's first quest. I'm not going to tell you anything about it, I'm sorry, that is personal to Celine, and some of the things that she may or may not do next year. So to end the evening, we went to something called Songs and Stories and Songs, which is in the Navarre camp. One of my friends, Kieran, hi Kieran, is in Navarre, and we spent a lot of time with them and met a lot of their friends as well and people in Navarre, and they had a campfire, which is essentially an open mic night. That was really cool. We stayed up till like maybe about midnight watching that until it ended and had a wonderful time. And that was it for Friday night. It was very full on. Day 3, the Saturday, is the day.
Hello, it's Saturday and it's bloody hot. So I haven't done any recording pretty much for the entire event, obviously because I've been in character and you can't take things in character into the event. But it's been amazing. Like, it's legitimately so good. I will talk about it more when I'm back home, but for now, it's just how cool you should all do this. This is so much fun.
Time in, 10 a.m, time out, 2 a.m. on the Sunday morning. Most of my day was doing that quest, so I can't really speak a lot on it. But what it did do was it took me around almost the entirety of Anvil, and I got to meet some really nice, interesting people, ask around for things, go into different camps, get the lay of the land, kind of understand a bit more about every single nature's culture because they are all really diverse and unique. The other thing to mention is how hot it was. I know I mentioned it already, but Saturday was the hottest day, and we were very thankful for people regularly breaking character to make sure, do you have water? Have you got sun cream on? Do you need to take 5 minutes? Do you need to sit down, go have a break in the shade? So I can't really praise everybody at the event, not just staff, but people as well, characters, non-playable characters, and characters like myself, like people who would consistently be checking up on everybody and making sure that they'd had enough to drink and had a rest and weren't pushing themselves too hard. Speaking of which though, there are 2 major battles through the weekend, which I think I mentioned, one of which is on the Saturday morning and one on the Sunday morning. The Saturday morning was exceptionally hot, and I did hear of, unfortunately, people suffering by wearing plate armor in the middle of that heat wave fighting orcs. I didn't participate in the battles. I didn't participate in any combat whatsoever. Selena's not a combat character in the slightest. Her magic leans definitely towards more role-playing social scenarios. But what I heard was that although it was very awesome, it was way too hot, and a lot of people came out of that needing to lie down and have a drink. There was also skirmishes, so it's not just 2 fights and that's it. There are also loads of different skirmishes, which I bumped into, I believe, on the Saturday evening. There were a few people from One Nation coming back from a skirmish in the middle of the night to try and do a thing, and we witnessed them coming back through the gates. Whilst it was like horrible from an in-character perspective because there were people clearly hurt, like not actually hurt but role-playing hurt, it was really cool to see how much people embodied the situations they were in. These people came through the gate and they were shouting, "Get the medics now!" And one of them was like limping and they were carrying them, and another person was like crying out to another person saying, "I can't believe, like, we lost them, why would you do that?" Like, it was all like very intense, but it was just really cool to watch these things unfold in front of you that were completely player driven. Like, obviously the event had set up, you can do the skirmish and had provided the monsters or the enemies to do the skirmish with, but everything that happened was within the confines of what the players' choices were, and then how they responded to those consequences was all their own. It's just very good, guys. So I actually completed my quest and did not die, and after that we went back to Songs and Stories on the Saturday night. Now this was my favourite evening of the entire event. I mentioned Songs and Stories on the Friday night. The Saturday night was something else. Now all of the songs and the stories and the poetry and everything that people brought to this like fictional open mic night thing was all like their own. It was all own works, all based around their characters and the lore of Empire. So there wasn't someone doing like a cover of an existing song. You know, no one's rocking up with a guitar and doing like Ye Olde Ed Sheeran. It was all own creations, own lyrics, music, everything. And clearly there was some new material, and clearly there was some material that people knew, because it got to the end, the final song of Songs and Stories on the Saturday night in Navarre, and somebody started singing this one song. And it started with one person, then 3, then 5, until just moment by moment, more people who knew the words to this song were becoming like a chorus surrounding me and Liz. We were sat there looking around and everybody knew the words to this song, and it just rose in this glorious cacophony of music, and it got to the crescendo of this song, the chorus, the last few choruses, and everybody drew their blades or their staffs and staves, and they came into the center and rose them up into the middle and chanted along with the chorus, and it was magical. When you're in this situation and you're new to this brand new world, and you get just a whole diverse group of people, a strong community brought together by music, it was just very magical to be the new person in that and to see everybody do that. Anyway, I got a little bit emotional because the sense of community was quite overwhelming, and it did feel like, wow, yeah, I feel a sense of belonging here. These are clearly, you know, my kind of people. And then we went drinking. I mentioned my friend Kieran earlier. Thank you so much if you're watching. He did a fantastic job of not only helping onboard me into the Empire experience, but he also spent a lot of time with me and Liz throughout the weekend, specifically on this Saturday night, introducing me to his friends, his other people from his nation, which is Navarre, and just making us feel super included. And so afterwards, we all went with a couple of other friends, new friends, to go around the in-character bars, which were bloody brilliant. We went to loads of different places, and then we ended up in one nation called Varushka. They had a night market, so we went to the Varushkan night market, and there was a guy with a traveling casino with dice games. There were like circus performers going on. There were people selling like loads of random things for both in-game currency and barbarian money, so you could actually buy things at the event. Oh, which reminds me, there are so many merchants at the event, so you can buy a lot of your kit or accessories or just bits and pieces at the event. All or most are independent, and they are fantastic. And then it got to 2 a.m. and we actually continued having a drink, and now 2 a.m. everybody's kind of out of character now. Everyone's a little bit tipsy. I got back to the tent quite drunk and in need of eating a load of mini cheddars, and then went to sleep. Needless to say, I was feeling a little bit sorry for myself in the morning. So the last day, Sunday, I don't actually have too much to say about Sunday. It was probably the quietest day. As I said, I sort of finished my quest, so wrapped up a couple of loose ends by speaking to people. Liz and I also did a treasure hunt, and we completed that. However, the event itself wasn't cut short, but a storm came out of nowhere, and Liz and I decided to kind of end the day a little earlier, just to retreat back to the tent, give us time to get warm, get dry, pack up our things.
It is the final day. The event is just closing off because of storms hit. You only have about like an hour and a bit left anyway, but because there's a lot of canvas tents, they're very hard to dry, and so a lot of people with big canvas tents started to like pack away very quickly because the rain's starting to hit quite hard. But it's been amazing. I won't say much now because my battery on my phone is going to like keel out over the next couple of hours and I need to get home. But for now, what I will say is it has been absolutely incredible, and I will pass you over to present day Rianne to discuss that more in detail. But I mean, I'm in big time.
And luckily the storm passed and we were able to put down our tent. And by that point we were knackered, and there was just no way I was relying on public transport. I ended up getting a taxi back to mine. So let's talk about final thoughts as a first time live action role player and a first time person at Empire. Overall, the word I would describe to use this event was incredible. I have wanted to do LARP for so long, and finally I've been able to experience it, and it was just everything I wanted and more. The people by far made this event what it was. How friendly people were, how accommodating they were. You could walk up to anyone in character and use the phrase, "I'm new to Anvil," and they'd immediately, if needed to, break character to make sure that you understood what was going on and where you needed to go. And many people throughout the weekend actually said, "Let me walk you there," and would physically walk with me and speak with me out of character to say, "How are you doing? Is this your first time here? How are you liking it so far? Is everything okay?" And the event staff as well were always on hand. They were very helpful. Shout out to my friend Harry, who was actually an egregore, so somebody who was basically had a walkie-talkie per nation. Everyone has a couple of egregores per nation, just to make sure that there is like a representative, to make sure that if things go wrong they can contact people who are actually role-playing in scenarios. I mean, love you, Harry. She was great. There are also just so many things to do. I'm glad I went in not as a blank slate completely, but I'm glad I didn't put as much time into Lee's backstory as I could have done, because there are so many opportunities that present themselves. I'm glad that I did that and I was able to find those opportunities, because now I'm thinking about the next event and going, oh, now that I've started on this path, I know where I want to take Celine, and that's really exciting. So maybe the cons, if you would call it that, the cons of the event is that it's a little awkward to get to. Public transportation though is an option. If you don't have a car or can't get a taxi or can't car share, there is the coach, which I think is fantastic, and it's so grateful that they would organise something like that. However, I will say that this is definitely not the most affordable event to go to. The tickets themselves, I believe, were £75 for the weekend, plus an extra £5 to get in on the Thursday night. So the event itself was around £80 for me, and that doesn't include the tube, the train, the inevitable taxi on the way home, the kit, the camping gear. Look, they're not super strict with what you wear. You don't have to have the most expensive stuff. Almost everything that I wore that weekend, I already had in my wardrobe, either from ASOS or from old cosplays that I already have. There's a lot to consider and the cost is quite high. But what I would say to you is this is something that you've always wanted to try, or if this is something that you enjoy and want to make this your thing, then I think this is a worthwhile endeavour to pursue. I had so much fun. I actually still have brain rot. For context, it is now November. I was meant to film this back in September straight afterwards, but I was so knackered, and then October happened with EGX and Comic-Con, and I had no time. So now I finally got round to sitting down and making this video. I still have brain rot. I've made Spotify playlists for Celine. I have Pinterest boards for Celine. I'm thinking about her character design for the next event. I'm trying to persuade more friends to join. I've actually got one of them to already buy tickets to join. I can't stop thinking about it. And I think on one hand it might sound like an unhealthy obsession now, but I just had so much fun, in the same way that you can't wait to sit down and play games with your friends once a week online, or board games, or you can't wait for that Friday night where you get off work and you can go down the pub and have a little drink with your friends, or have a coffee morning catch up, or whatever it is. Although it's a little bit out there and it's a little bit expensive, this is like my newfound love. I'm not going to call it an obsession. It is an actual love of mine, and I can't wait to see where Celine goes next and where any other character I create, where their adventures go next. So if you're looking to start LARP, I do recommend Empire. It was a lovely first experience. I know there are many others around the UK. Obviously I can't comment on them because I've never been. But this is your sign to just do it. Anyway, folks, I've been sat here talking to myself for almost an hour now. Hopefully we're still recording, I think so. If you like this content, I'm glad you did. I also do a series called Dev Talk and Tea, which I'm already planning on the next episode for, which is where I sit down and I talk about my experiences working in game development and hopefully try to teach or impart any experience that I have onto people who want to join the games industry or are in the games industry and want to learn a little bit more from a different perspective. So thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.